Look at this map of the 195 countries on Earth. Every single one of them invests heavily in defense. Yet, as this data shows, only 10 nations have ever managed to build a nuclear weapon. Entering this highly exclusive 5% club required extreme espionage, broken promises, and a deadly global game of catch-up. The spread of nuclear technology is essentially a geopolitical chain reaction. When one nation acquires nuclear capability, their closest rivals are immediately compelled to respond in kind. The catalyst for all of this occurred in 1938, when German scientists successfully split the atom. Recognizing the terrifying military potential of a nuclear chain reaction, Albert Einstein urgently warned the American president that Adolf Hitler might develop a superweapon. The United States immediately launched the Manhattan Project, pouring billions of dollars and vast scientific resources into a highly classified race to beat Germany. By the summer of 1945, Germany had already surrendered, but the American project culminated with the successful Trinity test in the New Mexico desert. Dropping 2 of these bombs on Japan swiftly ended the Second World War, but the absolute devastation left behind immediately captured the attention of every other global power. American attempts to maintain a monopoly failed almost immediately. Once the bomb's power was proven, every major power on Earth viewed its absence as an unacceptable existential vulnerability. The Soviet Union fought alongside the Americans during the war, but they quickly realized they were being intentionally locked out of U.S. nuclear research. In response, the Soviets quietly embedded double agents inside the Manhattan Project to siphon off classified designs. By 1949, they detonated their own device, kicking off the Cold War. And it wasn't only rivals stealing secrets. The United States also broke the Quebec Agreement, abruptly refusing to share their nuclear technology with their closest wartime ally, the United Kingdom. Stung by the betrayal and already holding significant uranium reserves, the British aggressively accelerated their own research, detonating their first bomb off the coast of Australia in 1952. The technology spread rapidly because trust had entirely collapsed. The major powers demonstrated that when global dominance is at stake, wartime alliances mean absolutely nothing. A few years later, during the 1956 Suez Crisis, the United States and the Soviet Union exerted massive economic and military pressure to force France to retreat from Egypt. Humiliated, the French government realized that without an independent nuclear arsenal, they had zero leverage on the world stage. 4 years of intense, isolated development culminated in their successful test in the Sahara Desert. Meanwhile, in the East, China faced similar abandonment. During the Korean War, the U.S. openly threatened Beijing with nuclear strikes. But instead of backing China, Soviet leader Nikita Khrushchev decided to soften his stance toward America and abruptly withdrew all Russian scientists from Chinese facilities. Chairman Mao Zedong took the abandonment as a direct and personal challenge. China mined its own uranium and successfully built a bomb by 1964. They named the test 596, a calculated numerical insult referencing June 1959, the exact month the Russians left them behind. The bomb had evolved into a geopolitical necessity for nations refusing to be sidelined by the superpowers. With the major powers trying to close the door behind them, proliferation moved into the shadows. Israel began building its own highly secretive program, accelerating efforts right after the assassination of American President John F. Kennedy, who had fiercely opposed their nuclear ambitions. Deeply isolated by global boycotts over its harsh segregation laws, South Africa found a willing partner in Israel. They struck a deal, trading massive amounts of raw South African uranium for Israeli nuclear expertise. At the same time, India suffered a crushing military defeat by China in the Himalayas. Driven by fear, Indian scientists used civilian nuclear reactor technology provided by Canada and the US to secretly build a bomb, testing it in 1974 under the guise of a peaceful explosion. That test terrified neighboring Pakistan. Desperate to catch up, a Pakistani scientist named A.Q. Khan infiltrated a European nuclear facility, copied highly classified centrifuge blueprints, and brought them home to build Pakistan's arsenal. And the trading continued. Decades later, North Korea found themselves cut off by their former allies in Russia and China, so they negotiated a barter with Pakistan, trading their advanced missile technology for A.Q. Khan's stolen centrifuge designs. The superpowers tried to enforce non-proliferation through official treaties, but a massive black market thrived anyway, entirely driven by regional fears of survival. Today, the global landscape looks entirely different. Following the collapse of the Soviet Union and the end of apartheid, South Africa voluntarily dismantled its entire arsenal, making it the first and only nation in history to do so. This map highlights the current reality. Exactly 9 nations hold the world's most devastating power. And the extreme secrecy surrounding these programs eventually crumbled. Israel's unacknowledged weapons facility was exposed by a rogue technician in the 1980s, and A.Q. Khan confessed on national television to selling his country's nuclear secrets across the globe. Total secrecy is a myth. The blueprints for atomic destruction are actively circulating in the wild, highly vulnerable to anyone with enough motivation. We can see this dynamic playing out right now. Amid escalating tensions across the Middle East, satellite imagery shows Iran expanding its facilities, pushing steadily closer to completing a functional weapon. And if they succeed, Saudi Arabia has explicitly promised to build their own nuclear arsenal in response. The pursuit of total deterrence hasn't made the world safer. It has locked humanity into a permanent, precarious